Welcome to Dine with the Divine. I'm your host, Ashley, and together we'll be exploring the magical, the mystical, and everything in between. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about maybe the gender or not of God, and we'll talk about being kind. So, hi everybody. Thank you so much for coming back for another week, and I hope you're having a great week. And if you're not, I hope your week gets a lot better soon. So today we have a fabulous guest, and she has fabulous glasses that I love. This is not a visual podcast, so you can't see, just trust me. She is Rev Amber Kearney. She is a progressive Christian pastor on a mission to love and affirm those the church has cast out, link arms with those that are breaking down capitalist and patriarchal strongholds, and help abolish systems of power that oppress trans, black, brown, queer, and otherwise marginalized communities. She is a bisexual pastor that serves at Riverside Church at Park and King as an associate minister on Sunday mornings, but prefers to be in the streets more than be in the pulpit. She's a mother, pastor, partner, and lover of books and thrift stores. Oh, I love that. I love a thrift store too. Thrift store. So, how are you, Amber?
I'm wonderful. Yeah, I'm doing good. It's a little rainy here. Otherwise, pretty good.
Awesome. Okay, where do we start? Because there's a lot going on here.
I told my husband, I was like, I basically just trauma dumped everything about myself in there. So we had a lot of material to work with. We'll see where it goes.
You're totally fine. No, so I think, and this is just before we even start. So I saw you on Instagram, and I was just looking at your pictures and what you do, and I was like, oh my gosh, what a positive figure. First of all, I love your hair. You have the best hair. You have fantastic, beautiful hair. And then so I was just stalking you on Instagram as one does. And I was just like, oh wow, you, first of all, you have a beautiful smile. You just look like somebody who I'm like, if I had a problem, I'd talk to her.
You got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the DJ revolves it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
like that.
Just like that. That's exactly how it would go, and it would be fantastic. So
that's the start and end of my musical career. It's done now.
It was good while it lasted. I enjoyed it. But I guess my first question for you, of all questions, is what made you want to become a pastor, associate minister? I don't know the levels, but yeah.
We're like wizards. We've got levels. I'm like third mage. I'm trying to get up there. No. Sometimes when my senior pastor isn't around, I park in his parking spot, and I'm like, I'm the pastor now. Stop and film him.
Yes.
So basically, when I was younger, I really wanted to do ministry because I had an opportunity to speak at an event, and I'm terrified of speaking in public, but getting up there and just sharing, I just forgot that I was talking in front of 100 people, and I just really enjoyed it. And I've always enjoyed helping people, and my mom was a church secretary, so I was always doing stuff, and I was like, I really feel like I could do this. But I was Southern Baptist. And if you know anything about Southern Baptists, I don't think they like women at all, but that's my beef with them.
Well, I was just thinking this today. I was like, there's a lot of people who claim to be and I'm talking about red pill people. And I know I should have had this revelation before, but I was like, wait, you guys really don't like women. You guys are all like, I'm so straight. I'm like, I don't think you are.
For real.
Hate ladies. And I think if guys had what the parts I guess you like them to have, I guess you would just date men. Anyway, let's go back to
no.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Just be yourself. It's fine. It's not a problem.
Yeah, so I about 16 came out to the church because I came to my church and said I want to go into ministry, and a bunch of lay people, because I'm so we are Southern Baptists. Mm-hmm. There's tent revival, the fried chicken, all that shit. Okay. And so I show up the last day, and I'm like, I feel called to ministry. And they're like, yes, girl, do it. Boss queen, whatever. And I was set to babysit for my pastor later that week. And he was like, hey, friend, I know you're coming over this time. Could you come a little bit early? The wife and I want to talk to you. And I was like, cool, new sleep schedules, like whatever. Like I thought it was that. And they were like, oh, it is sinful for you to want to be in ministry. You should marry a pastor and that'll be your ministry.
Pardon?
Exactly. I was like, the fuck?
What?
I've heard people curse on your podcast. That's okay.
Oh yeah, it's totally
okay.
fine. You can curse
cool.
as much as you want. Yeah, it's fine.
It just comes out of me. I'm sorry.
No problem, Shane. Yeah.
So for 20 years, I was just like wandering around, just doing things like a ministry, which was like the thing. Oh, I could do that, and it would be like a ministry. Oh, I could do that, be like a ministry. Because I was subversive, even though I didn't realize that's what was going on. Because I was like, I'm not marrying a pastor. I see how pastors treat their wives. Like, hell no.
Hello?
So when I got here at Riverside in Jacksonville, like 20 years later, my senior pastor was like, you keep saying you've been doing things like ministry. Why don't you just do ministry? I never saw myself necessarily as a pastor. I just wanted to help people. And they were like, yeah, I'm really trying to build this church up, and you feel called to ministry, and I need to fill a role here. So why don't we do this? And so I've been on staff for July will be a year.
Great.
And it's been great. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't believe somebody. If you're saying, and this goes for like any kind of faith or whatnot, I feel like if somebody's, oh my God, I'm so called to do this, like because God has spoke to my heart, or I just feel this or whatnot, that's no problem. Why would anybody, is it that important that you have a penis to do it? Like, I really don't.
Pastors, apparently it is. If you've seen the news lately.
I know. We'll get to it.
That is a dark joke, though.
Yeah, it is. But I'm just like, you were saying, no, this is something that has touched me, something that I feel strongly about. And for someone to be like, you know what you should do? You should shut the hell up and go and marry somebody who does that, so then you can serve him.
They specifically told me, you should marry a pastor and raise his children. And I very strongly remember his children. I'm like, what the fuck? I carried those kids in my body, and I would push them out of the smallest hole in my body, and
Hello?
they're his children? What the fuck is that?
What is that? And that, you know what that reminds me of? I just, this was last weekend, I watched the documentary about the Duggars.
The
and
shiny,
like that,
happy people one.
I watched it, and in that, and I have a friend who's an ex-Mormon, and she said the same thing in Mormonism, that it's like, there is the people in your life. The hierarchy is, if you're a woman, it's like you, and then you serve your husband who serves God. So it's like your husband before God, which is insane to me. I'm like, so just and it doesn't matter what the gender of your partner is. You shouldn't worship your partner. Nobody's partner should be over like them, like that. Like, it's just
like
partner. You're supposed to help me. Yeah.
Have you seen Bill Gothard's The Umbrella Model? That pisses me off so much. Oh my God! Every time I see that, I'm like, I gotta go punch someone now. What the hell is that on your page? Get that off.
We're gonna go off the rails because there's so many things that I have talked to you about that I've been thinking about for the past couple days. And since we brought up Bill Gothard, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Okay. The obsession with the conservative, and I just want to see what you think about this, like the conservative obsession with sex. Don't understand. Like, what? And we'll talk about this later too. Like, the message of Christ, which is what Christianity is based off of, if anybody doesn't know. And if you didn't know that, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm serious.
No,
because of the way.
It seems like it's about other things.
It seems like it's about everything else. And like I always say, Jesus is my
culture
homeboy.
Or something,
Yeah, he was my first introduction into spirituality. It was Jesus. But I just don't understand why people are so obsessed with sex. Like, that's how, okay, first of all, it's like, biologically, like, that's how people are made. So let's just stop it there. Like, we don't have to worry about who's doing it, when they're doing it, who they're doing it with, if you're the right gender when you do it. Like, who gives a shit? Like, literally to make people, and at some point people realized it was fun and it felt good, so they kept doing it. So why are we so worried?
Yeah, I know. And it's so funny how they really confuse gender and sexuality. As I've explained to my oldest is 8. She knows what all of the LGBTQIA, she has a basic understanding of what everything is. And we still haven't had the big, like, birds and the bees, like, sex talk with her. She doesn't, because gender and sexuality aren't the same thing. And I have to explain that to people all the time. Like, why is it always, our church is very affirming. Like, we make sure, because so many people say all are welcome, but there's always an asterisk somewhere that is hidden. So we're very upfront and really careful. Like, when you get in the door, you know exactly where we stand. We're not going to take you to coffee to explain things. We're not going to say, oh, meet with a pastor. We are very explicit. And I've still even had to explain that to people. Like, why do we have to talk about sex so much? And we're not talking about sex. We're talking about gender. And this is why it's so important, because so many people have had that, like, glass wall experience where they feel welcome, but then when they try and move within the church, they, like, slam into a glass wall. Oh, but you're a lesbian, so you can't do children's ministry. Oh, you're non-binary, and we're a little bit nervous about you teaching a Bible study. So you can sit in the pews and you can give us your money, but you can't actually go anywhere with it. And so just, like, be really so we're very explicit, and because of that, it raises questions. People get that confused, that gender, sexuality. And I wish we talked about sex more in church, honestly. Maybe make it a little more fun.
I'm saying, and I feel like there's so many positive ways. I was thinking about this too when I was watching the Duggar documentary. There's so many positive ways to talk about sex and explain, even the emotional part of it, that, like, I feel like it's very important to explain to people, especially kids, people who are going to have sex growing up, like, that sex brings up a lot of emotions, and it's important to explore those emotions, because I do think that people exploit those emotions. If somebody has sex with the wrong person, that other person may exploit how they may be feeling after that sexual experience. They may think this is love, and then the person will, maybe they could become abusive, and they may say this is how people treat people. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. Like, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It's just, it sounds like we're on the same page. Just, it being as open as what's age appropriate. Yeah. And just not being, like, my parents, my mom, like, couldn't even hardly say the word sex. She was so nervous around things. And I'm like, I've just been trying to be real careful that I'm like, just, okay, this is fine. We can talk about this. Yeah. You know? And I think as people get older, like, it should be like, I want my kids and I want my youth and my children's, not necessarily my children's ministry, because I don't do children's ministry, but a youth ministry. There's obviously, like, there's some things there because it's parents and whatnot, but of course, generally speaking, like, I want people to feel like they could come to me and ask questions and not their dumbass friends who don't know. They know the same amount of information that they do. It's like, they had me convinced that because I drank Mountain Dew, I was going to get breast cancer when I was a kid.
Your friends tell you the dumbest shit. I remember when I was, like, in 6th grade, I found out some girl had, like, sex with her boyfriend, but the girl was older than us. I was like, oh God. They're like, yeah, but it was the first time, so she can't get pregnant, so it's not a big deal. And I believed that for years. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. I was like,
you get a freebie, like a free pass the first time. Just check it out. It's a little painful, so, might as well.
That's what everyone said. I swear, until I was maybe, like, a junior in high school, I found out that's not true, that you can get pregnant anytime. I was like, no, so-and-so told me 5 years ago that they were like, no, Ashley, that's a lie. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
That's how I was about drugs. So growing up with the DARE program, I was convinced that if I tried any drug the first time, I would die. Yeah. Literally would die. So I got offered all kinds of shit in college, and I was like, I don't want to die.
I'm going to... You guys didn't go to DARE? You didn't find out you're going to die from this? Oh my... I thought that, like, the minute you smoked weed, you just became like a heroin addict. Like, I was petrified. I had friends who smoked weed, and I was like, you guys, I don't want to be strung out I can't go home if I'm like this. My parents are immigrants. They'll kill me. I was like, I can't do this.
What's great about it too is that in college when I was younger, there was just drugs everywhere. And now I'm just like an anxious mom who'd like a little cannabis, and I'm like, I look like one of those cop narc people. Like I don't even know how to find it, and I'm too anxious to go into one of the doctor's offices and be like, I have anxiety. Can I just get a card? So I'm just out here raw dogging life.
Yes. Raw dog in life. That's my favorite thing. I feel like a lot of us are just doing that every day.
American healthcare system is in the toilet. What is it?
Oh my God.
We're all just doing it, this capitalist health week.
And that's another thing. Not about the American healthcare system, because that's another rant for another day. But like your church, first of all, I'm going to read this statement that was on your church's website because I really loved it. It just says, our community welcomes all the certain and the doubtful, the excluded and the included, rich, poor, and in between, divorced, partnered, single, widowed, atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, Catholic, Protestant, Islamic, Hindu, Jewish, or nothing, straight, LGBTQIA+, African American, Asian, Latino, white, citizens, and guests. I love that, because when you say, like you said before, some people say, welcome all, and that's because they want that $5. But you guys really are like, we welcome all you, and especially if you're in one of these categories, and if you're not even, still come if you feel like it. I love that statement.
So just like straight, white, Christian, heteronormativity, like that is the default box. Like that's the NPC character. Like most people like default in our society to that. So I don't feel as strongly that I need to tell those people that you're welcome here. You are welcome here. But for other people outside of that, for an immigrant or for an atheist or somebody I kind of am halfway in the church and halfway out, and I've had some religious trauma. Am I going to be welcome here? I'm a trans woman. Am I going to be welcome here? Those kinds of people really don't operate within that default setting, and they don't know because everything caters to that group. So we just, like I said, wanted to be very explicit, and so far I feel like it's working out pretty well.
Yeah, I love that. And you touched on the fact that, first of all, it makes a lot of sense to me too, because I feel like because I'm Black, a lot of places I go, my first question is, are there going to be any other Black people there? Because I'm always like, I don't know if I'm going to walk in and everyone's going to stare at me, or if it's not going to be a big deal. Because it's nerve-wracking.
It's a real fear. Yeah.
And there's always a fear of being like, people being suspicious of me, or it's just like a thing when I go places. A lot of Black people experience that. Like, and then same with other groups of people have different reasons, because people may, especially in a church, and I'm not part of the LGBT community, but I can obviously think about how uncomfortable it might be in certain circumstances to walk into places like that when maybe you do just want to go and like worship with other people. But you might think, oh, these people are going to look at me, and maybe I don't look super heteronormative, man, woman, whatever, and they're going to think something. So I can't imagine that feeling either. To have that on your website, I think is so important. And to have somebody like you who isn't fitting this like one way of being is so important to people who do maybe feel like that. Maybe they say, I don't hate Christianity. Maybe I wasn't treated well wherever I was, but it doesn't mean I hate my faith or whatever. I think that's so important.
Yeah. I grew up Southern Baptist. I grew up homeschooled, like a part of the whole culture, and really deconstructed hard about maybe 6 years ago. And it just kept snowballing, rolling. And I feel pretty settled now, but I also want to always like learn and grow, and I'm sure I'll change over the next year and two, whatever. But for me, I just know that there's so many people that were harmed by the church, and they that one foot in, they haven't lost their connection to the divine, and what they know is church, but church has also deeply hurt them. And I want to be somebody that can help bridge that gap and be like, if you still want this, it's for you. And also, like, I have great friends who don't want it anymore. They're like, I'm spiritual, or I'm not spiritual at all, and I don't do church anymore, but like your community, I'll come over and eat dinner with you guys if you guys are having a meal or a barbecue or something. I'll hang out with you. I've got friends that come and do various things with us, and they're like, the God stuff's not for us, but we feel like your community's safe and we'll hang out with you because some of your congregants are really cool. And that's fine too. I no longer feel it's necessary to try and win people over and get them to stay in church or whatever. I think people connect with the divine however they're going to do it or not do it, and that's okay, which is like totally different than how I was raised. I was raised like Tuesday night, go out and win people for the Lord bullshit. And it just causes so much trauma for people and for myself, but also for the people you talk to, and creates this unnecessary power imbalance, and it's just gross now to me. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love how accepting you are of anybody's place where they are in their faith journey or lack thereof. And that's what's important. Aren't we all just supposed to, this sounds so stupid, but aren't we all supposed to get along? Isn't that the point?
Yeah.
If you have a specific faith, great. If you have none at all, no problem. Let's all just be cool. That's literally, in the words of Luann from Real House of New York, can we all just be cool? Don't be all uncool. That is so wonderful. And it's just, and for some people, church is literally just community. And that's what they need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe the God stuff isn't for them. That's no problem. They're just like, oh, like you said, your congregants are cool. Or maybe I've made some friends here and I just want to chill with them and eat some food. That's cool. Like, we have a place we can commune.
Yeah. Jesus to me is like this, like, he was like a Palestinian Jew who was very radical for his time. And I think it's really significant that the first time that he speaks publicly is like the Sermon on the Mount. A lot of the things he talks about, like caring for the poor, and that like justice is such a central, integral part of the ministry work that he did. And when he teaches his disciples how to pray, Jesus talks about God, that may earth look like heaven. And that's sort of become my mantra, is like, how can I make the world around me look a little bit like what I think heaven would look like, which would be more equitable, that racial violence wouldn't happen, that LGBTQ violence wouldn't be happening, that everybody would get along and we'd all be cool. And I think that's important. For me, you cannot, if you're a Christian, and this doesn't speak to other people's faiths, but for me, Christianity doesn't happen without the work of justice. And it's become just like an integral part of my faith. It's been really nice landing here at this church because we do a lot of that kind of work. Churches do a lot of mercy ministry, which looks more like making sandwiches for homeless people or giving out clothes, writing checks for things. And I think that's important too, but I think justice goes upstream and says, okay, where is this broken and how do we fix systemic inequalities? And I don't know why I'm rambling on about this, but I got excited about it. So.
This is so important. I think that way too. Like, it's super good for you to have a food drive and to hand out food on Thanksgiving. Nobody's ever saying that. And I always talk about like my mom grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and they're very strict about certain things. So she's one of those people who's, I really like Jesus, but like I'm not into all these rules. So I just pray and like chill, but like I don't need all of this.
Oh yeah.
This is a lot. But like my mom, she grew up like her family was very poor, and they got the food basket from the church on holidays because they were the ones who needed it, and it was great. But like you're saying, I always think about these things like, yeah, why don't we do more work about like changing laws and helping the unhoused and like doing those things? Or okay, this is getting a little into some controversial territory, but ministering to,
that's where I live.
Yeah, ministering to women about how you shouldn't have sex, how you shouldn't have sex, and then like, where they get pregnant and they're like, okay, I got pregnant, I want to have an abortion, and they're like, absolutely not, you crazy person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if they get pregnant, stop screaming at them. If they make a decision for themselves and saying, I'm not equipped to have this child, why are you mad at them for that? They're making a healthy decision for themselves and the child. And they're saying, this is not okay for me and I don't want to do this. Okay, great. Like,
this is healthcare. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting that we've been doing this for so long, right? It's been like the 60s or 70s when Roe v. Wade initially was held up in court. And since then, there's been so many think tanks that have said, hey, do you want to not have abortions? Here's a slew of things that you can handle, and then you have less abortions. Like, again, like I said, abortion is healthcare. You do what you want to with your body. That is autonomy and all the things. Also, if they really cared about that, if that was the thing, they really did actually care about that, then they would handle all these other issues that poverty, inequality in housing, the rising costs of food, even climate change issues. Like, so many things impact the reason why birthing people choose not to have kids. And those are all valid, but they could also be looked at systemically. And we've done that research. It would be so easy to pass laws to fix things and help people. But to me, it doesn't seem like that's actually the goal. The goal seems more about control. And I know it's controversial, but that's my hot take.
On this podcast, it's not controversial. It's fact. Because, so speaking of control, my next thing that I was thinking about, this is just going to be a conversation today, everybody, so don't get on me. Because I think about, also when it comes to the church, I always think about, controlling birthing people's bodies, like you said. And then also control of what they've done. I was talking to somebody else. I talked to my fiance about this too. If you go to West Africa, this is where my dad is from, where my fiance is from, West Africa also. Like, you go to church there, people are crazy into church. Like, they love Jesus with a fervor, right?
Yeah.
But again, then they use it to demonize each other. We demonize our indigenous religion because apparently it's bad now. And like, I always think of like how
colonized become
how so many countries use Christianity to do the colonizing and then to tell people like, actually Jesus loves you, but not as much as he loves me because you are less than me, and that's how I'm going to use this religion thing, and I'm going to make you have to believe it so much that you're going to demonize your own people and your own ancestors because and I'm just like, I always say this, when I die I have to find Jesus because we have to have a convo. Like, because I'm like, sir, you know what they're talking about you down there? Like, the shit is wild down there. Like, they're saying all sorts of shit that you didn't say. And he's going to be like, bet? And I'm going to be like, yes.
It is wackadoodle time.
It's crazy down there, Jesus. I swear to God. They be saying you said all this shit and they didn't even write that in your book. And he's, I know. I never said that shit.
Like, what the fuck? My people have gone off the fucking rails. I'm gonna put a boot somewhere.
Exactly. He's probably like, remember I died for all your sins? I might be taking some of that back because some of these people are doing a lot. And I can't. Like,
are doing the most. And not even in a good way. Oh
no.
My gosh. Sometimes I'll tell you a secret that's not going to be a secret now because, the podcast. But sometimes, like, I love my job so much, and there's so much that I would do absolutely for free, like ministry. But, like, sometimes when people are buttholes, I just think, this is why I'm getting paid. Like, this specific complaint, I'm going to imagine that your money is what's feeding my family this week.
Absolutely. Because this is dumb.
Yeah. Just people just like that. People are the best part of my work, and they are also the worst part of my work. And sometimes it can be the same person.
100%. I know. And I also think so many people are a product of what they heard. And this is my big gripe too. I have a gripe. Everybody, there's probably not
Ashley's gripe.
This is one of my many gripes. Like, we are, and I think I said this before in a different episode. I was like, we are in an age in our country, in the United States, most people can read. Our literacy rate's very high, okay? So if you are like, the Bible says this, I'm like, you can look it up.
Yeah,
the Bible Google it. There's apps. It's being sold everywhere. If you haven't heard, you can buy a bookstore. So when people say all these things, I'm like, quote it. Tell me where it says it. And they're like, that's not the point. So it's all that talk. First of all, people who are Christians who say stuff like that, it's not helping your case, because this is why a lot of people don't trust people like that, because you can't even back it up with whatever you're saying. And if you're using your faith to be hateful, why would people want to be a part of it? They're like, oh, those are those stinky people who don't like anybody. I don't want to hang out with them. Like, they're mean.
For real. Yeah. What's so interesting to me, too, is that they'll look at the Bible and they'll say, like, it's a plain text. So they'll pick out a couple passages that talk about women or gay people, and they do not want to hear the historical context of those verses. They don't want to break those out. But then there's like 2,000 verses that say, like, give all your money to the poor and stop hoarding wealth and take care of one another, and widows and immigrants, like, should be on your roster for taking care of people. And they're suddenly very committed to just the historical context. And that's like, that this was just a parable about heaven, and God did not want us to actually give any of our wealth to the poor and, like, fix justice issues. That's a sidebar story that means something else. And I'm like, you couldn't do that for women in ministry or for the LGBTQ folk. Like, we couldn't do that for them. But when it comes to your pocketbook, suddenly it's a fun story. It's an anecdote.
Yeah, they didn't need all of my money. They just meant once in a while, the Good Samaritan guy at Christmas time, I put Bitcoins in there. Yeah, I know. Screw them. You guys, if you didn't know, they're not good people.
They're terrible.
Don't support those people. They're anti-LGBTQ and everybody. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. They're bad.
No, Christmas pisses me off so much because it's them. And then Franklin Graham with his fucking, like, pack up shoe boxes for people, and, like, all these Americans throw all their, like, shitty dollar store stuff inside of boxes, and then Franklin Graham goes over to Africa, and these little Zimbabwe children that are like, do you want this shitty box of Dollar Tree stuff? You gotta know about Jesus first. They're like, I'm hungry. Can I have some food? Not till you pray this prayer. And they're like, I'll say literally any fucking thing. Just give me the dumb box with the food and stuff. And then it fucks up the economy over there, because for like weeks while they're there, then nobody is buying anything in the market. And it's during a time where people are expecting that economic, and then they're just not getting anything, and you're just like taking money out of somebody else's. It's just like, that whole thing pisses me off. So between them and then the Salvation Army people at Christmas, I'm a little grumpy, and I'm like, no, we're gonna do microloans and build cisterns. We're not doing any of this shit. And I'm not very fun at Christmas time with the congregants. They're like, we just want to do a $20 thing and feel like we're helping people. And we're like, that's not how justice works. Fuck you. I get a little in my, like, my Paul Peter era, just like pulling out a knife and just like, cut it all down.
It's so true, though. Charities, I'm very like that too, about when people are like, I give to this charity. I'm like, did you look it up? Like, how much money does the CEO make? And people are like, why do you need to know that? I was like, I need to know. Where's my money go? And not because of me, because I want my money to actually go to help people. So I look shit up. I'm like, do they give their CEOs shit tons of money? Do they support some weird ass organization that hates gay people? Because I need to know. I don't want to give my money to any of these weird ass people. I'm the same way. way. When I found out about those damn Samaritan people, I was like, Good Samaritans. I would like, now I just give them terrible side eye whenever I walk by. Bombastic side eye every time. You bitches.
I see our TikTok algorithm is similar.
Exactly. Oh yeah, bombastic side eye every time. I have no time for it.
Or
But
like
it's
the
just
companies
Mhm.
as Wendy's or whoever, they're like, would you like to round up to, I'm like, not so that you can get a fucking tax break.
That's it.
Pay your share of taxes, bitches.
This is what I'm saying. You got to pay your taxes. Okay, controversial. You work at a church, so I got to ask your controversial opinion.
All right.
How do you feel about churches not paying taxes?
I'm like, I have so many weird feelings about it because the thing is, like, my church, even though we have a large building, but we own the building and it's been here for 100 years, so that's why we own the building. We have a fairly small congregation, and we are just like scraping by just to make sure all the programs run. And we really don't do a lot of, we do some inward stuff, like obviously kids have classrooms, so they have cookies and stuff like that. But the vast majority of the money that we're using is either keeping lights on in the building, or it's actually like going out and helping people in our community doing things. And so, like, for us, taxing us would be like really difficult.
Yeah.
But also, fuck mega churches that, like, they bring in so much money for all this stuff, and it's so shady. And I feel like there should be a cap. If you make so much money, if you have book deals and your congregation is so big and it's bringing in so much money, there should be some sort of like in between, because some churches have 30 people in them and they're barely making it. If they're doing good work and they're not like being political, like telling people who to vote for and stuff, like fucking Greg Locke and his shitty congregation. Like, if you're not engaging in that kind of stuff and you're doing honest work, I don't know, and you're not making a ton of money, like I see. Yeah. But like, also, if you're making a ton of money, and so I'll tell you a little little story. I was at a church once that decided that they were going to build a building, and it was supposed to be like a gym, and it was supposed to help people in impoverished areas of town, and so they could give them classes for their kids to learn trades and to do like art and stuff. And we were like, oh, this is great. They're going to build it over on the other side of town. They're going to help all these kids whose parents, instead of them having to pay for like aftercare, we'll just take care of that for free for them, and it'll be great. And it was a very wealthy church, and this was prior to a lot of my deconstruction. I'd have kicked off some of it, but when they announced it, I was like, oh, this is interesting, we could do this. And then a little bit later, they announced where they bought the plot of land at, and it was like less than 15 minutes from where we were, which is like this part of town that was very wealthy. And I was like, that's not good. It takes like 20 to 30 minutes to drive from the more like redlining. There's every town has it. Every town's got like poor side. And so anyway, so there's no way that people are going to spend that kind of gas to drop their kids off. And then they started charging for classes, and I was like, oh hell no, we're out, we're done, I can't do this shit. And so like things like that set me off. But I also know a lot of really great people who do honest work, and they're just like barely making any money, and that's okay because it's the life that they committed to. So, you know, just like we used to give teachers, a lot of times teachers would get to go to school for free, and they'd have housed and boarding for free for places because it was considered a public service. And I don't know, I feel like case by case basis, but I'm still like real like shifty on that because I know people on both sides. I want to make sure that good work still happens. Yeah. But also, if we taxed all the churches, everybody would be in homes, and there would be inequalities. I think that it would be great if we didn't have to force people. If people actually took the mandated ideas that Jesus set forth of caring for the unhoused, and like if we actually took that seriously, no one have to force it. We would just give generously. And I'm to some degree, I'm like, how do I get that? Because you get more generous. I wouldn't be just giving you like 2% of my income or whatever. It would be like what needs you have. And you get, not to get too communist, but everybody according to their need, everybody according to their ability. And to me, I feel like that would be so great. But unfortunately, we've got a lot of assholes, and so we
Yeah.
have to force them to do things.
So I was talking to somebody about this the other day because we were talking about tithing, and I was like, okay, the situation is, now I've done like a lot of reading about it because, so I used to go to this church with my mom sometimes, and one time we went and there was a whole service on tithing, like the whole entire service. I left like angry because I went to this church that we went to is in not such a good place in town, not in my town, but it's about 25 minutes away from where I live. And it's a poor area. And most of the people who go to this church are a lot of them are like on food stamps and government programs.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, okay, so you're asking these people to tithe and they are just making it. Most of them have children. Like they had a whole school program for the beginning of school, donate money for stuff. And most people needed those backpacks and those school supplies. They didn't have a lot of money to buy that for their kids. So I'm like, you're asking these people to give 10% of their money when they don't have a lot of money to begin with, and you'd rather them do that than feed and clothe their children, but whatever. But when I like did a lot of research on it, other than this stupid sermon I went to, I actually read about it, and I'm like, okay, because before I used to be like, tax the church, is it? Which I still think that they should, but on the other hand, I see why they didn't. Like, because before, what like things like your church is trying to do, that was the whole point. It was like, no, the church is out here reaching out to the community and helping people. That's why we're not taxing them, because what they're doing is using the money to, obviously the people who work in the church have to live, so we have to give them money. That's not a problem. They're working, but it's like they're using a lot of those money for helping people, especially when it comes to like childcare. That's like you said, childcare is a big thing. A lot of childcare is expensive as fuck. A lot of churches and places would have free childcare for your kid, or we'll watch them after school or whatever. So like in that respect, I'm like, yeah. And like I just talked about my mom growing up, like her church was in England, but still like them not charging them taxes allowed to give money to families who were poor, like my mom and her family. So in a way that was great for them, and her minister and everybody got to get paid. So I see it. And so in this community aspect, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Like I totally get it. Not taxing churches. What, like you said, where I have a huge problem with it is like these stupid ass people like Creflo Dollar and all these idiots like out here buy a jet. Why do you need a jet? Number one, I thought you're supposed to be a champion for Christ, and Christ wouldn't have a jet. First of all, he wouldn't know what it was because he lived a long time ago. He's like, what's that? I'm like, we'll explain later.
But walk on the water, it's fine.
I float up in clouds and shit. We're like, yeah, you don't need one. We know. Stop bragging, Jesus. We know. You need all show off. I know, right? You need all this and these expense. Even the pastor of the church I went to, he had fancy suits every week, new suit, new this. I'm like, why do you need all this shit? And he used to like brag about, yeah, one day they're gonna see me on TV. I'm like, so this is why you're doing this, which is okay. You just want to be on TV, fine, then go be on TV. But like, you're collecting money from all these people. So I now didn't feel bad when I put $1 in the change basket. That's it, because like you don't eat all my money.
The Instagram that's like pastor shoes or something.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
You ever see the pastor who got robbed during church?
No.
Oh my God, I'm gonna send it to you on Instagram. Oh my God, it's hilarious. This man. He was wearing like $1 million worth of jewelry. This is in Brooklyn, I think. And they robbed him he was live streaming church, and they just robbed him. And I was like, first of all, very rude. He's preaching about like the gospel, and here you go robbing that man. But it was funny because I'm like, first of all, you're wearing all this jewelry. Nobody cares. Like, why are you wearing all this jewelry at church? I never gone to church and be like, ooh, look at the pastor's beautiful cufflinks. I don't give a shit. Like, I just want to feel good that day, and I want to sing, and I want to dance a little bit, like hear something. This guy got robbed during church, and it's very funny, and I will send it.
Honestly though, like if if you have the audacity to come in and take anything out of the church, because most people feel a little like uncomfortable about that still, but like you obviously need it more than we do. Like I'm not worried about our stuff. Just feed your family.
Yeah. That's
But
it. Yeah.
that's wild that there was live streaming though. I'm like,
Pretty funny.
not that
I'm
the
like,
police are going to
damn.
do anything. They're going to write a report and put it somewhere and
And people are just like,
somebody else.
everybody, yeah, everybody's laughing. And then like all this other stuff came out later that this guy is like a huge scammer. So, and then he was like, what's the biggest scam I can do? I'm going to open a church. I was like, another thing I will be talking to Christ. I'm like, Jesus, did you hear what this guy did?
So what's interesting too is that I think that we used to have more safety net programs that were backed by the government. And when I want to say when Reagan came in and slashed a lot of those
Fucking
programs,
Reagan. Yeah.
always Reagan.
It's always fucking Reagan.
That I think that's where the church ended up. I think the church has always operated sort of in a mutual aid situation, but I think that we had to rely on churches more after that point, and so that I have some interesting feelings about that. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if we all put our money into the big pot, then we could all get the services without people having to feel like they have to say the God words and go. And then like people that show up at the church can just come because they want to come and not because they are like, if I say the right words, someone will put food in my hands.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And then there's that thing like too about, and I don't know if I'm making sense when I say this, but like that there's like another flip side of that too, like with that like prosperity gospel stuff that people do. It's if I just keep praying then I'll be rich, and I'm like, that's not how that works, because money is a man-made thing, guys. God didn't make money. Yeah. So
God's not like a Coke machine. You just like
I know he's not a banker. And yeah. The reason you don't have money is because of a multitude of reasons. It's not just because of you didn't pray hard enough for not having money.
That's dangerous theology too.
Yes.
That shit's terrible. People that lost loved ones and stuff, and they're like, they just didn't have enough faith. And I think, ugh.
Oh my God. How many people have said so many. So I do a lot of work with like grief and stuff. People say wild shit like that. And even when like people die, just pray about it. I'm like, pray for what? Like I'm sad. Yeah. Somebody's dead. What am I praying for? I understand if you have a certain kind of faith, and I know I say this to people, like I hope they have an easy transition and things like that. When I say I'm praying for people, I'm saying I'm praying like that a person is peaceful. I'm not saying that I'm praying you get over it. I'm not saying that if you had prayed harder, somebody wouldn't have died. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And people need to shut the fuck up. Yeah.
We just do not handle grief well in America.
No.
I don't know how it's handled in other countries per se, because I just know the American experience. But like my husband and I, a trigger warning miscarriage. We had a miscarriage once, and the wild shit people say in line that time, you're grieving, and people are like, God just needed them more than you. And
what? This is not what I want to hear right now. Yeah.
And people just don't know what to say, and I think they just try and fill the space with stuff. But it gets really insidious when they start bringing religion into that, because they're just like, religion comforts me, and so I'm going to say some weird religious things to you and add to your trauma.
Yeah.
Like, so hard.
That's true.
Just bring them a meal and just sit with them. You don't have to say anything really if you don't know what to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to go through a little bit of the rest of what I was going to talk about, because we've had such a great conversation. I was going to talk about other stuff, but we don't need to, because this has been amazing. I was like, ooh, she's a minister. I'm going to bring up all the things that I have issues with. And you are so like progressive that you have all the same issues. So this is great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too, Ashley.
You're awesome. You're so cool. So since this is Dine with the Divine, I will bring up a food thing. Okay, so you live in Florida, correct?
I do.
We already went over this.
Yeah.
I've said this 4 times.
Okay. I like to forget that I live here sometimes, so it's fine.
I know. That shit is crazy. Okay, we don't have time for that, but another time maybe. Because your governor's doing a lot. What we're going to do.
We'll figure it out.
I know, it'll be fine. We always do. So do you live near a Publix?
Yes.
Okay.
Like a lot of Publix. Yeah. Are you familiar with Publix?
No, but all I hear is that Publix is amazing and everybody loves Publix.
Yeah, everybody loves a pub sub. They're
Okay.
it's just the subs that they make back in the Publix deli, but people go crazy. But I had a friend once who created an Instagram for the pub sub. He was not sponsored. He just made posts about Publix subs.
I hope somebody gave him a coupon or something.
I hope so. I don't.
He's really.
I was like, I don't know what people
They seem very passionate about it. The way that
a cult almost.
Yeah, this is the way in New Jersey a lot of people feel about Wawa. We have now Quick Check too. Some people swear by Quick Check. I don't. A Wawa is the original, and this is how I feel about Wawa. Like, I'm very passionate about a Wawa sub, Wawa soups. They're adding all the time to their menu. It's the best convenience store you'll ever go to. Fight me anytime, any day.
I won't. I'm anti catching hands, so.
No. Fight me about Wawa, and you can catch these hands too. That should be like my motto in my life.
Need a
Wawa
button
catch these
or
hands.
something.
Yeah. Boo, I found this list of things you can buy at Publix that people really like.
Okay.
I thought I would tell everybody. So everybody, if you live near Publix, this is what you should buy. This is a recommendation widely throughout Reddit. So they said the very popular and reputable site Reddit. They're saying the chocolate chip cookies are good. The salsa apparently is fantastic. The ice cream. I've heard about the ice cream. People say Publix ice cream is so good. The brand, like Publix brand.
Yeah, it's comparable to, I feel like, other national brands, but it's
Yes.
at that generic price. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Sweet tea, and
Yeah.
I've never had sweet tea, but everyone's it's just sugar with a little bit of tea, and I'm like,
Yeah. Do you drink hot tea?
yeah, I do.
That was weird for me. So I grew up mostly in Florida, and then I moved to Michigan for a couple of years, and then moved back. And I on our drive up to Michigan, I just kept every gas station seeing if there was sweet tea, and then at some point we got like halfway up, and they started serving hot tea in the gas station. So I was like, okay, so now we're north. Now I know.
We're cold. We need hot tea. So people really like this syrup and
The croissant syrup.
yes. Ooh, they got some lemonade that's getting some hype over here.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pizza dough. Okay, they're glazed donuts.
I'm a Krispy Kreme gal, so I haven't really eaten their donuts.
Yeah,
we're gonna fight.
we don't really have Krispy Kremes up here. We got Dunkin' Donuts. That's our thing. It's fine. I had a Krispy Kreme once. It was fine. Everyone's like, it'll change your life. And I'm like, not really. It was fine. But
Did you eat it hot, though?
no, it comes hot.
Yeah, when they first make them in the morning, they're like hot and they just melt in your mouth, and that's life-changing. But if you just have the Krispy Kreme, they're okay. But I feel like it's the hot ones. It's always
Got
the
it.
hot ones that change your life.
It's true. Any hot pastry, I'm happy.
Just put
Hot
that-
pastry, hot people. It's all good. They've all messed me up in some way. We got oh no, my life's a mess. We got key lime pie.
Yeah.
We got. I've never had key lime pie either. I have to have this one day. And then, at the bottom, here you go for your friend. Of course, the most iconic, the royal, the most high, public sub. And it says here, bow down, ye mortals, and tremble at the face of perfection. Damn, okay.
No. I haven't had it in a while. I stopped eating meat mostly.
Oh,
Like about a year ago. I tried to when I was younger. And my mom would put meat in everything, that even it's just vegetables. She'd be like, oh, there's some bacon fat in that. And I'm like, it's literally the only thing that I can eat. But thanks, Mom. And so I just gave up.
Stop.
But then when we moved here, so many of my friends that go to this church are vegan or vegetarian. So they always bring dishes that have no meat. And a lot of our restaurants around here have a lot of vegan and vegetarian options. I still do cheat. It's my own thing, so it's not really cheating. I get to make the rules about my own body.
Absolutely.
But I like shrimp.
That's okay.
Shrimp tacos.
Shrimp is good.
Yeah.
No, I know a lot of people who are what is
it's
it?
like pescatarian.
Yeah. Or like you said too. Yeah, and you can make up your own rules. I know a lot of people who only eat chicken. Like, that's the only meat. They'll be like, oh, I'm a vegetarian, but I only eat chicken. And I'm like, first of all, you're not. But second of all, you can just say you only eat chicken. It's not that big of a deal. You don't have to fight with other vegetarians about it.
Yeah. And vegetarians, like most of the people, it's like that stereotype, right? You're vegetarian. You have to talk about it. Oh, I'm vegan. You're like, oh, we get it. All right.
Every vegan person I know has, like, when you meet them, they're like, hi, I'm vegan. And it's, oh my God, I don't give a shit. I don't want to live. And everywhere you go with them, they're like, oh, do they have any vegan options? I don't know.
Cult too. There's so many cults out there. There's a cult of vegan things. There's a cult of, what's the other thing we said that sounded like a cult? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Publix cults.
Publix cults, yes.
Peloton cults.
All those
Peloton.
people are like,
I feel like
that's fine if you want to exercise, but like, you're okay, fine, great. You exercise on your fancy, expensive bike. I walk outside. It's free. Congratulations. We're both doing something we enjoy. Like, why are we fighting about it? Stupid. So dumb. So last or not least, we're having like a really mini story time today. This all worked out because I was like, oh, our story time's not really long, but it's fine. So our mini story time is just about how we've talked about this the whole episode. The whole point of Jesus and stuff like that is that Jesus was really nice. Like the whole thing. He was very nice and he just wanted everyone to get along. And that gets very lost. And I know there's a lot of people who may listen to my podcast and you guys are not Christians, and I want it to be for everybody and I want to hear different perspectives of people. Yeah. But just in case I've never heard of this Jesus. I'm like, let me tell you the story. The story is that Jesus was like, let's be nice. And the whole Bible is full of stories. So I'm like, we can't pick one because it's a big story about a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit that goes on. Yeah. But when Jesus comes into the picture in the New Testament, a lot of his stories or parables, am I using that word right? Yeah. Parable? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like, I've been a while since I went to Sunday school. I can't remember all the words.
They're not magic. It's fine. Yeah.
All of the stories about him were about him wanting to respect people, wanting others to respect others, wanting to be kind, and just trying to show people that even though you might not understand or know somebody, you should just be nice to them because we're all people. Yep. So I found this very cute little website. And it has Bible kid stories. I was like, oh. And it was like 5 times Jesus taught us about kindness. And I'm like, I just want to remind everybody this was his actual point. Not to hate anybody. He just was trying to be nice. So if you've ever heard of a little disease called leprosy, back in the day, it was really bad. And a lot of people had it. And it was highly communicable. So people made them live together. So nobody wanted to go over there. But Jesus did one time. He's like, no. We got to go over there. And this guy came up to him and he's, I have leprosy. Please help me, Jesus. And Jesus is like, no problem. And all Jesus' friends were like, chill, Jesus, you might get leprosy. And Jesus is like, hey, we got to help people who are going through shit. Okay? So
verbatim. That's what he said.
He said, we've got to help people and don't worry about it. We have to do nice things for them. So that's one thing that he did. And that's in Matthew 8. Chapter 1-4. It's way more eloquently said there. That was basically the point of the story.
That was a great recap. I love it. Great.
And another time, Jesus, he went to dinner with this guy who was... Jesus really didn't like money collectors, if you didn't know. One time he flipped a table. He got so mad about it.
He was exchanging money inside the church and charging people to be able to do spiritual practice.
Yes. And he wasn't about that. And like, I agree. Like, it's not about that. He was like, no, you should be here because that's what you want and it makes you happy. Yep. So there was this guy, everybody in the Bible had these wild, awesome names. Zacharias. I love it. And he was a wealthy chief tax collector. And he really wanted to yes, he really wanted to see Jesus, but he was mad short. So he had to climb up into a tree. And he couldn't see him. And damn. Yeah, he was a short king. And he's, no, I want to see Jesus. Jesus was a cool guy. He was like the rock star of the day. People like to go see him talk because he always had some cool shit to say. So he got up in the tree and then he's, Jesus, my boy. And then Jesus saw him and he's, Zacharias, get down here. And he's, tonight I'm going to come have dinner with you. And all the people saw him. And the people saw that he was talking to Zacharias. And all the people are like, Jesus is going to have dinner with that guy? He sucks. He's a sinner. And Jesus... and... But then Zacharias stood up and he said, Jesus, look, I'm going to give you half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I'm going to pay them back. And Jesus says, see, today, Zacharias has changed his ways because and I think the point of that story is that Zacharias maybe didn't think he was worthy because he was doing something that was like deemed not good. What he was doing, he was taking people's taxes, probably keeping some of it.
Oh, yeah, he was definitely.
But Jesus realized that even though Zacharias was doing something wrong, it was okay that like everybody can be redeemed. And then Zacharias was like, bet? Okay, cool. Like I think I'm going to change my ways because I realized that this person is making me realize that like I'm worth more than I thought. Like,
Jesus invites him into community before he's even worthy of it, and then that changes him. He didn't have to make some kind of rules or judgment on him.
Yes.
That him feeling like a part of something made him change and become a kinder person himself, which I think is...
Exactly. And like everything we've been talking about, look how if we welcome more people into our communities, and like I'm not just talking about Christians, I'm talking about all different types of communities, and because there's all different types of people who discriminate. So if we welcome people, that helps them to become better persons for themselves, and beyond us judging them, maybe they will feel better about themselves also because we've now helped them. That's, hello, let's do this. So then another time, Jesus did this all the time. He was always showing compassion to sick people. When all of his friends, Jesus's friends are crazy. They were always like, Jesus, don't touch that lady. She's dirty. Jesus, don't touch that person. They're a different tribal group. And Jesus is like, can you guys chill out? I'm literally Jesus, and it's literally fine. They're always like,
did you forget who I am? Like
they're like, I'm...
Dory syndrome.
I feel like he's constantly turning around to it, especially Peter, because I feel like Peter was always trying to stop him from doing something. It's like, Peter, shut up. Like, all the time. Jesus Christ, Peter. Because Peter's always, my Lord, don't do this. And Jesus, can you literally chill out? I literally... He's always mad, even though Peter's the one who goes later and just keeps talking about Jesus, so I guess he's fine. But like, in the moment, Peter was doing a lot. And Peter was the one... Isn't Peter the one who denied him 3 Peter, I have some words. You're doing a lot. But also... Yeah, Peter even almost got in a fight with Mary Magdalene one time. We talked about that on a different episode, but don't worry about it.
Go back and re-listen to it.
Exactly. You just be rude. Now. Exactly. But even Jesus knew, okay, so even, and I didn't know this, but Jesus knew, of course he knew. Jesus knew a lot. He already knew Judas was gonna obviously betray him, and he still kissed him. And Peter was like, why are you kissing him? And Jesus is like, it don't matter. like I know it's about to happen. It's fine. He's my bros, and I already know it's about to happen, so it's going to be fine. And he's like, Peter, and I feel like in my head, this is what happened too. He's like, Peter, don't forget, I know what you're about to do too. Shut the hell up. You have no room to talk.
Hot me pedo.
He said, be quiet.
You're too loud. Stop.
Stop. Oh, and the last thing is that Jesus saw, okay, the whole Samaritan thing, because nobody liked Samaritans back then, I guess. Whatever. So so when Jesus saw a Samaritan lady and she was thirsty, he gave her the drink, and it was probably Peter, but maybe it was somebody else who was like, damn, why are you giving that Samaritan lady a drink? Because we're Jewish and we don't associate with them. And Jesus was like, because this drink is a gift from God, so I'm going to give it to her because she deserves it, because she's God's child. Basically, that's what he said. And everyone's like, damn, Jesus was so... I think people say it, but people really don't realize this was what he was about. He just wanted to help everybody. All these other things and all these stupid, not sorry, I shouldn't say that, but people who are super conservative are saying all these things that are not true. He was super accepting. He super just wanted to help everybody. It wasn't about who you were. It wasn't even about that you believed in him. That he didn't care. He just wanted people to be comfortable.
Yeah, I feel like the gospel is just so inclusive. It's all about making the world right, making people right in their relationships. And
yes,
streamlined white American evangelicalism has so ventured off that path. It's all about people get angry about culture war bullshit, and it's about how you dress and how you talk and this and that. And
hellfire.
It's like, that's not the point. You're missing it completely. Yeah, it should be about love and inclusion and kindness. So
yes. So that's where we're going to end it, because that's what we need to do. Damn it. Everybody be nice. And just remember that it's about kindness. And thank you, Amber, for being part of a community which is trying to actually spread that message. You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
And you're fun and you're hilarious. And I really enjoy you as a person.
You reached out to me and asked me about being on your podcast, and I was like, let me just check her out first. And I love your podcast. You're so funny. The people that come on have so much wisdom, and I just laugh. I'm like, those are my friends. They don't know it, but they're my friends.
I'm so glad you agreed, because it's like, I do have a lot of like witchy people, but and I think I've said this on a previous podcast. I'm like, from my induction into this world, I think I love spirituality of any sort. I love reading like religious texts of any sort. I love learning. So I always want to hear from every single person I can, like their perspective and like how it makes sense to them, because it's just interesting that you came on here. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah. Amber, before we leave, I just always ask people, and I will always say this, I stole this from a different podcast that I love, Scam Goddess. So she always says, where do you want to be found on the internet if people would like to follow you or anything like that?
So I'm on Instagram. You can tag.
I'm going to link. All the links will be in the show notes. I'm just asking you.
Yeah. Instagram, I'm pretty active there. I am on Facebook, and I keep that pretty open because I've got all kinds of people that follow me there, but it's a little more boring over there. I feel like Instagram, I'm a little spicier. I do have a Twitter, but I don't engage with it much since Elon took over that place. I'm on TikTok too, but I'm not consistent. But I do have quite a few videos up, so I'm there too. So I'm all over. Or you could, if you're ever in Jacksonville, Florida, and want to meet me in person, we're at Riverside Church at Park and King. So you could find me there too.
Yay! Yeah. And we got so deep in our conversation, I didn't do my mid-show plug, so I have to do it at the end again. I already do it anyway. Doesn't matter.
Plug yourself, girl. Get it.
Yeah. So everybody, I just want to thank Amber and remind you guys that I always say we, it's me. It's just me. I'm with the Divine on Instagram and on Facebook. I have to fix my Facebook page. It's really messed up. If you really like this show, you can like it. You can subscribe on wherever you listen to it, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, blah, blah, blah. And if you have any suggestions, comments, questions, whatever, you can feel free to email me at dinewiththedivinepod@gmail.com. And if you want to follow me, Ashley, I'm at SankofahS. That's SankofahS. And I'm Sankofa Healing Sanctuary on Facebook. So I just want to thank you again, Amber, and thank you everybody for listening. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Bye.